Hello everyone, and welcome to the ABS Associates webinar, Migrating Oracle Applications to the AWS Cloud. My name is Julian Troke, and I'm the Senior Director of Marketing at ABS Associates. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of things I wanted to cover with you. We're going to be taking questions at the end of this webinar, but because we don't want any interruptions, everybody is on mute. So if you would like to ask a question, please use the chat window within the webinar to ask your questions, and we'll put those to the speakers at the end of the session. So let's get started. Mark, next slide, please. Thank you. So today we have three speakers. Shaun Roche is our speaker from Integer Holdings. Shaun is the Senior Director of ERP in Information Technology. He's going to be talking about how Integer was able to migrate Oracle E-Business Suite to AWS. Then Wilfredo Solano is the Director of Cloud Services at ABS Associates. And Wilfredo is going to describe how ABS Associates helped Integer Holdings with that migration. And we're going to start with Mark Roy, who's Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services. And Mark is going to describe how Amazon Web Services is suited to the migration for Oracle applications to the cloud. So let me take you through the agenda for today. As I mentioned, Mark's going to cover the AWS cloud. Then we'll hand over to Shaun. He'll describe his customer's experience. And then we'll move into some of the details around how we designed the infrastructure for moving Oracle workloads to the cloud, and we'll wrap up with questions and a general discussion at the end. So a little bit about ABS Associates. ABS Associates is an IT services company. We're located in the US, headquartered in the Boston area, and we have locations in the US, across Europe, and in India. We have over 200 active clients and over 800 people worldwide, and the company is rapidly growing. We're also, it's very important for us to explain that we are partners with Amazon Web Services and Oracle, and with those two partnerships, we are able to use our skills to help customers to migrate complex applications and applications on which their business depends to the cloud. We've been partners with AWS since 2012, and we are a premier partner in the Amazon network of partners. We're also an Oracle Platinum partner, and we've managed multiple migrations for Oracle to the AWS cloud. And after the migration's been completed, we also manage their cloud environment and manage the application for them so they can maximize their cloud experience and minimize their costs. So I'm going to hand over to Mark now, who's going to take you through the AWS environment and how it's suited to moving Oracle workloads. Mark, over to you.
I've been working closely with ABS Associates over the past few months, and I've been involved in enterprise application development for the past 20 years. I'll spend the next 10 minutes giving you an idea of what it means to move Oracle workloads to AWS, and I'll talk about why so many of our customers are making that move. AWS has millions of active customers, and as you can imagine, a large number of them run Oracle databases. Let's look at the key reasons to move Oracle workloads to AWS. First, you might be hitting a tech refresh deadline with end-of-life support for your data center. Maybe you're running 8-year-old servers or even an aging operating system or JVM version. Maybe your colo contract is up for renewal in 6 months and you're thinking, now's a great time to take the next step into the cloud. Customers are also finding significant cost avoidance and long-term savings by eliminating technology debt and refreshing their development stack. You might be looking for faster response times from the latest hardware and software configurations, read replicas, in-memory caching, and the like. And lastly, some customers see the move as an opportunity to upgrade security, and we'll dive deeper into that shortly. Another set of migration drivers are all about agility. We see many customers moving databases to AWS because of the agility and innovation they'll get for new apps and with cloud-native architectures. They're adopting a cloud-first approach, so taking care of database workloads is a critical piece of that puzzle. Part of that agility and productivity comes from automating operations. On AWS, customers can define infrastructure as code using CloudFormation and other tools. They can spin up dev, test, and performance environments in minutes and shut them down when they're idle. Think of the tremendous difference here. I know when I was building apps on premises and getting a new test environment basically took an act of Congress, 12 calendar weeks, and $50,000. Now you can do it in minutes with far less errors, no CapEx, and only a few clicks. So we'll tie this into the topic of DR a bit later. And with less time on all the infrastructure, there's more time for innovation. That's why we see so many companies building game-changing new applications and taking advantage of newer approaches like containers and serverless computing and simplifying their ongoing application development. So all of this adds up to lower TCO, simpler deployment, higher availability, and a secure and scalable platform. Next, let's look at 4 different ways Oracle customers approach the move to AWS. First, I'm sure many of you on the call today have Oracle Enterprise application workloads that you'd like to move to the cloud. Applications like eBusiness Suite and PeopleSoft are mission critical, and we're seeing a growing number of enterprises move these to AWS. And that's the focus of the webinar today, and it's something Apps Associates does really well. And you'll hear how that works firsthand from Shaun and Wilfredo in a few minutes. A second use case, although not nearly as common, are companies with a big investment in Oracle's Fusion middleware. Some customers will lift and shift these capabilities, but more often than not, they choose to build on a platform of AWS services for developers. Then they can take advantage of serverless computing, containers with Docker and Kubernetes, API gateway, and even tools for CI/CD to speed up delivery. Third, customers are moving Oracle workloads by migrating to AWS database services like Amazon Aurora. Aurora provides a high-performance, commercial-grade database at 1/10 of the cost with pay-as-you-go pricing. And AWS gives you tools to help with the migration. More than 83,000 databases have already migrated using our database migration service. And we provide a schema conversion tool as well, all to help simplify the process. Last but certainly not least, you may have in-house business applications built on Oracle. And while you might be happy to continue with Oracle, you're looking to modernize your middle tier, let's say, and maybe build a better user experience. Let's go one level deeper on this. So when you're implementing Oracle databases on AWS, you get 2 main approaches, each with its own advantages. First, you can use Amazon RDS for Oracle. RDS is AWS's fully managed solution. It lets you focus on app design and development by letting RDS manage time-consuming database administration tasks like provisioning, backups, patching and monitoring, and even hardware scaling. You can even deploy multiple editions of Oracle in minutes with this approach. Alternatively, you can run Oracle directly on Amazon EC2. And this approach gives you more control, more flexibility, and more choice. You get direct access to the full database infrastructure at the operating system level. And for workloads like eBusiness Suite, you'll need this level of control and flexibility. And if you work with a managed services provider like Apps Associates, they'll take care of any extra heavy lifting for you, giving you the best of both worlds for an eBusiness Suite implementation. Many AWS customers actually use a combination of the 2 approaches here. They might use RDS for some workloads and Oracle on EC2 for others, depending on their requirements. Now let's spend a few minutes on high availability and security. One key driver for moving to AWS is our global footprint and high availability. Our customers are in 190 different countries, and AWS gives them immediate access to regions worldwide. Within minutes, you can have servers in whatever regions you need for low latency for your customers. We currently have 18 regions, 55 availability zones, and 123 edge locations. And each region is architected with multiple availability zones, and that protects the data durability and the service availability within that region. And regions are also designed to withstand loss of physical infrastructure. There's no single points of failure for things like electrical systems, generators, and air conditioning. So your business can stay online through hurricanes, storms, other natural disasters, because we provide excess bandwidth to load balance across remaining sites when it's needed. AWS's combination of infrastructure as code, the architecture of AWS regions, and a number of different services and tools gives you some really big advantages when addressing disaster recovery. You'll be able to support a full spectrum of recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives based on your specific requirements. You can achieve hours, minutes, seconds, or even near real time at a fraction of the cost of an on-premise solution. So the advantages include low upfront CapEx. You're only going to pay for what you use. You can test any time from anywhere, make it fully automated, and you can even improve your security. So speaking of security, one of the most important questions we get all the time from every customer is whether or not their data will be secure. And the answer is yes. Security will always be our top priority. And as you look into AWS security, what you'll find is the same security isolations you'd find in a traditional data center. We have physical data center security. We've got separation of the network, isolation of server hardware, isolation of storage. And the AWS cloud infrastructure has been architected to be one of the most flexible and secure computing environments available today. Our scale, remember we've got millions of active customers in 190 different countries. That scale gives us significantly more investment in security policing and countermeasures than almost any large company could afford on their own. So take the example, lots of CIOs worry about a rogue server under a developer's desk running something destructive. Today, in an on-premise world, it's really hard, if not impossible, for a CIO to know how many of these there are and where they might be. With AWS, CIOs can use tools like AWS config and resource tagging to see exactly what cloud assets their company is using at any given moment. So no more hidden servers under the desk or anonymously placed servers in a rack plugged into the corporate network. And one of the greatest things about cloud is that AWS customers inherit all the best practices of AWS policies, architecture, and operational processes that satisfy the requirements of the most security-sensitive customers we have. And you'll see that echoed in this quote from Capital One CIO Rob Alexander, who's basically saying that AWS lets them be more secure on AWS than in their own data center. That's pretty high praise. So lastly, AWS has achieved a number of internationally recognized certifications and accreditations demonstrating compliance with third-party assurance frameworks. I'll mention a few here. ISO 27017 for cloud security, 27018 for cloud privacy. We comply with SOC 1, 2, and 3 also in the privacy space. Customers can be PCI and HIPAA compliant on AWS. We've also achieved public sector certifications like FedRAMP at the moderate and high level for federal government systems, which also validates our FISMA and ITAR compliance, plus SRG impacts level 2, 4, and 5 for DoD systems, and even ISO 9001, which is all primarily for healthcare, life sciences, medical devices, automotive, and aerospace. And with that said, we're also constantly listening to customers and looking into other certifications that might be important for them. So with that, I'll hand off to Shaun Roche, the Senior Director of ERP Systems at Integer Holdings Corp, and he'll take you through the Integer case study. Shaun.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here today to share the Integer story with you and support Apps Associates. Integer is a combination of two medical device outsource companies that was formed in late 2015 by the merger of Great Batch and Lake Region Medical. I was a Lake Region Medical IT employee. Great Batch acquired Lake Region Medical. Both companies were running Oracle EBS in hosted environments, different hosted environments, and we had a situation where we needed to figure out how we were going to consolidate those two environments because it just about doubled the cost exactly. It was interesting both companies were paying almost exactly to the penny for their environments in terms of annual operating cost. And I was charged with bringing the two together and consolidating to one instance. In 2017, we had about $1.4 billion in revenue, 10,000 employees. Today, we're running the single instance Oracle EBS application at Amazon, supported by Apps Associates, and we have roughly 7,000 users at 34 different locations worldwide. We're in 5 countries, and it's going well for us, and I'm happy to be here to share some of the details. Next slide. So what drove us was the problem I mentioned earlier, where we had applications hosted in 2 different data centers. Our contracts, interestingly enough, for both companies were also coming due around the same time in 2016. Both the hosting providers were proposing price increases, and I'm sure most of you are aware of how that goes. No great surprise there. And we were adverse to locking in new contracts with either of them for a long term. So we were looking for to lower the cost, and we were looking for flexibility. And so we explored the options, which brought us to Apps and Amazon. So these are sort of the business drivers that led to the decisions we made. Next slide. So in 2014 and 15 at Lake Region, I did a request for a proposal to see what could be done to move the Lake Region Oracle instances to a cloud environment, away from a hosting provider and our infrastructure. We eventually got to a point working with Apps because they were a trusted partner of ours, where we did a pilot. That pilot successfully led to understanding that we could move the application to Amazon. It was a proof of concept. Apps helped us do that. It took us about 4 to 6 weeks. It wasn't very deep, but I saw enough in that time to know that we could do this, and I developed a strong confidence for being able to do it, and I became a big supporter about it. So it enabled the better planning to really make it happen, and then we put it on the shelf because we were about to be acquired by Great Batch. So at that point, we had multiple instances of Oracle EBS consolidate to one. We needed to do something about disaster recovery, and that went well. So I also decided to move Hyperion to Amazon as well, also working well. And the cutover to the cloud was very, very smooth. Over a weekend, it took about 3 or 4 months to get there, obviously. And we didn't miss any shipments at 34 locations, and there was no business disruption. Next slide. So these were some fantastic results that we achieved through doing this. It was challenging, but Apps Associates supported us along the way, and it was really great working with a partner that didn't create extra challenges for me and my team. And we were able to achieve the things that are on this list. We delivered a greater than 50% annual cost reduction, which is significant because you would think you could save half, but we actually saved more than half. We consolidated the 2 infrastructures to a single instance, where today we have 34 locations, manufacturing plants around the world, running on the single instance Oracle EBS, release 12 that we have at Amazon. We removed complexity because we're not dealing with 2 different hosting providers. We're working singly with Apps, and they handle all the Amazon billing, which they can talk to you about separately. We achieved flexibility, particularly around being able to scale up or down for projects. It's really great being able to spin up non-production instances when you need them and then drop them when you don't need them. One of the challenges that we had with a hosting provider, which I'm sure a lot of you have too, you have a fixed capacity and you either use it or you don't, but you pay for it. That's not the case here if you manage it properly. You have to make sure your licensing is scalable to that kind of an environment for flexibility. That's working very, very well for us. And when we need project instances, we spin them up. When we don't need them, we take them down. We also were able to scale down the production environment because at Amazon, generally speaking, but there's a lot of different ways to do your contract. You pay for what you use. Anybody dealing with the Oracle ERP environment always probably gets a little more capacity than they really need. The great thing about Amazon and working with apps is you can scale it up or down depending on what you're doing, and you can even get very sophisticated and turn down your non-production instances after hours if you want to and save more money. In our business, it's critical that we analyze our operating budgets every year. I'm asked, and pressures are on us to reduce our budget every year. Our business is such with contract manufacturing. We need to be efficient. We need to be price competitive. Our customers put pressures on us to lower our prices annually, and we're always dealing with the challenges of price downs and giving our employees merit increases. And so all these challenges I'm sure a lot of you have, and we were able to create a flexible environment with Amazon and apps where I can do that very well for us right now. Next slide. Why did I choose apps? Well, they were an incumbent working with me at Lake Region in the Boston area, and they're just were doing everything I asked them to do. I can rely on them. So, you know, they were in my environment. They're a successful partner, and I was happy to take this to the next step. But as I said, we got a proposal from 3 people. One was apps. It was the best one. I brought in 3 folks. We talked to the other 2 potentials. We talked about it. At the end of the day, it just made sense to go with apps because we had the 12 years of experience. They have a very deep bench on ERP, business intelligence, and we needed a partner that had a worldwide reach as well. As I said, we're in 5 different countries. We have 34 plants running Oracle, and I wanted to make sure that they had the scale. Whoever we chose had the scale to help us take care of what we needed to do to make this a reality. And the experience, the deep bench, the confidence that I had working with Apps Associates, all these things combined put us in a very, very good position to work together to create a cost-effective environment with contracts that were very, very flexible to create a situation where I could manage this, the budget for the environment and the operating costs in a very successful and efficient way. They provided all of those things, and I have a lot of confidence that if any of you take it to the next step with apps, you'll see the same results that I've had. Next slide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shaun. So my name is Wilfredo Solano. I'm the Director of Cloud Services for Apps Associates. And as Shaun was mentioning, so in the case of Integer, you have a specific use case. And was the perfect storm. Everything was aligned, and it was great to work with Integer. However, we understand that as an organization, you don't have to be in that case. And we have gathered along these years, more than 6 years of doing this now, some common triggering events that we have been mentioning gradually, like the hardware refresh, for example, right? Or the competition has a cloud-first approach, or you have an organizational mandate. So we have a CFO, CIO that is coming with trying to reduce the footprint of the data centers and so on. And then at the end, the vendor renewal. So there are some common use cases that are explained here. This is not exhaustive. This is not all of them, but some of them that you can apply to your current situation. And then we have the perceived obstacles on the left. Number one that is coming up is licensing and support. For that, we have a separate webinar that you might want to attend in a couple of weeks that is going to be dedicated just to licensing and support. we have some perceived risk. You might be looking at the cost, might be very high, and perhaps the benefit is going to be low, so you don't really want to take the leap into the cloud, and some others. However, the main idea of this is that no matter where you are in your triggering events, no matter where you are on your journey, if you apply properly the rules on how to migrate, if you apply properly the capabilities of AWS, you will have some common benefits at the end. And some of those benefits you might not even realize right now. For example, the agility and flexibility that we were talking about. You might not know, but maybe in a year or two you might be facing a merger, an acquisition, a divestiture. And being in running your applications on AWS will give you all the necessary tools for you to be able to address that in a timely manner, without having to spend a lot of money, without having to come up with a huge capital expense, and so on. Next slide, Mark, please. Okay. Then I will cover some of the technical and operational considerations. What is the approach? How we handle the network access? What type of instances and Amazon images we will be using? Some storage considerations. I will talk a little bit more about security, although Mark covered that in a very good manner. And then we will dive also into the daily operations, which is basically going to be dedicated to cloning and patching and backups and monitoring. Right? All of these related to eBusiness Suite on AWS. Right? So let's start with the migration approach. If you are familiar with the Amazon principles and rules and best practices, you will immediately recognize these phases, right? Because we use the same approach. We are, well trained and certified by Amazon, so we will adopt the same process. And in this case, you can see, we go through a discovery phase. We then help you determine the migration path and the timeline. And then we start building what we call the first pass. Then you will do your validation. We go to a second pass. By that time, you will have a very precise idea of what are you going to be facing, what is, what issues we encounter in the first round, and so on. And at the end of that phase, at the second pass, you will be given by Apps Associates a full cutover plan with timings, with technical steps, very detailed. So you will be able to go into the cutover with a peace of mind that we have taken into consideration every single step all the way through. Then we will use some of the time allocated for the migration to provide you with disaster recovery, and the last step is production cutover. Before we go to the next slide, Mark, let me just cover a little bit of, you might be wondering right now, how long will it take? What is the timeline for this? And I can give you an idea of a typical timeline. We are talking about 12 to 14 weeks for what it will cover eBusiness Suite only. Okay, we are not talking about Hyperion or other technologies, but eBusiness Suite only, with all the complexities and multiple middle tiers and so on, including the setup of disaster recovery, will take us 12 to 14 weeks. The bigger the footprint, the longer it will take. However, even for very extensive footprints, we have been able to do this within a 6-month period. Okay? Next slide, please. With this slide, I wanted you to have a look at the 30,000 feet view of an e-business suite running on AWS. I know it has a lot of terminology perhaps that is not well known. However, what comes out of the picture right away, and that you can see on your left side, you can see the US East region for AWS, and within that region, in this case, you will immediately recognize your data center, and that's the main purpose of this. So you will see that the VPC is your data center, and in this case, you will be able to pick which region you want, as you know, out of those 18 regions that Mark mentioned before. And on the left side, we have put another region, in this case US West, which will contain your data center for disaster recovery. And I can cover later on a little bit more about it. At the bottom, you will recognize the corporate one, so that is your on-prem facility, your data center, your building, and the connectivity up to either the US East region or the US West region. We typically do disaster recovery in a multi-region fashion. There are some companies that prefer to do that on the multi-availability zone. We don't do multi-availability zone because the multi-availability zone do not cover for regional disaster. So in a regional disaster situation, you will be much better if you were to have this on a different region. We can move on, Mark, please. So we talked about the VPC. So your VPC is your data center, is your virtual data center. Amazon published a methodology that is called landing zone. There is a lot of things that are totally scripted. You will be able to run these scripts on Amazon and create the VPC and security groups and account structure already out of the box, pretty much, that will be able to support you on an enterprise level. Right? So this is for companies that will be subnetting the VPC, where you will have a private subnet. You might have a public subnet, and you will be able to handle your security groups and so on. So even when you do not have right now external access requirements, Amazon and Apps Associates, we highly recommend you define your public subnet from the very beginning. And in case that you will need the external access, then you're already all set for providing that access in a secure manner. Okay. Communication towards the VPC, you have two main methodologies. Either you create an IPsec tunnel via the internet, or you create a direct connect using, we can define this as a direct circuit using your current internet provider, whether it's AT&T or Verizon or anyone else. The main internet providers, they all have drops into the Amazon regions, so you would be able to connect in a direct connect fashion with them, and they have this published on the Amazon website. Next slide, please. So as many of you might know, we are talking about e-business suite. So this and databases at the back end with e-business suite. So we will highly recommend high memory instances for this. And the mapping of the servers, there is a document published by Oracle in terms of licensing and how they handle the licenses and the CPU license versus the vCPUs. So you have to follow those guidelines and then do a server mapping from what you currently have on-prem and what your architecture will look like at Amazon. there are Oracle and Red Hat Linux AMIs available. Right, in this case, so those are Amazon images that are available, and we will install all the prerequisites for you. We will do all the kernel updates to run eBusiness Suite, and then after we've done that, to save time for future deployments, then we will create a custom image, which is again one of those capabilities that Amazon will provide you. So you will be able to go ahead and create your custom image, and then in the future you will use that image to deploy your server, so you don't have to go through all these prerequisites, patching, and kernel updates. Next slide, please. On Amazon, on AWS, I think is clear for the audience that if you are not running on Linux, you will not be able to deploy these systems on Amazon. I will mention also Windows, obviously, but I don't think we have many clients running eBusiness Suite on Windows as it was in the past. However, if you are running on Solaris or HPOX or other operating system, then you will have to go through platform migration before you will be able to move those to the to Amazon Cloud. So having said that, once you are on Linux, then the source and the target operating system versions should match, and that's to ease the migration. At this moment, the database tier will have to be a single database tier. You cannot use rack real application clusters for the database. However, at the application tier, you will be able to handle multiple application tiers, just the same way as you can handle that right now on-prem. We recommend to create an elastic load balancer in front of the middle tiers, so you can handle that on a very easy way, additions and also disaster recovery. So we can go to the next slide, please. All right. This is a very crowded slide, and people sometimes when they look at the amount of storage options that are provided by Amazon, they might not know where to go and what to do, and they might be overwhelmed. And that's the reason why we put it here, because we've done the work for you. You don't really have to go out and reinvent the wheel with this. We have already done the legwork, and Amazon also published a white paper, which is the link that is at the bottom of the screen. And on that document, you have the specific types of storage that Amazon provides you for being able to support eBusiness Suite. This is an amazing offering and an amazing capability from AWS that you can hit every single type of storage that you need with what they already have available. And not only that, you will be able to optimize the cost of the storage that you will need by looking at this, separation of storage, and also by using the lifecycle management of storage provided by AWS. We'll be able to migrate, for example, backups from Amazon S3 to Glacier and so on, and have that automatically done for you by the lifecycle management from Amazon. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, security. The only thing that I'm, why I want to mention security again is because, yes, Amazon has the best security that you can get out there right now. However, the problem is that it is a shared responsibility, and as you know very well. So it doesn't matter that Amazon has tremendous, let's say, physical security. If you leave the APPS password as APPS open for everyone. So in that case, I wanted to highlight that, there are certain levels where the infrastructure as a service provider is responsible for, in this case Amazon, but then from that level up, it is your responsibility as a customer or our responsibility as a service provider. And you do need a managed service provider who understands the application as well in order to bring in that extra layer of security. Thank you. We can move to the next slide. Okay. And then we're out to the daily operations functions that we need to be able to handle. So you need to be able to handle cloning. You need to be able to handle patching, and you need to be able to handle monitoring. And it is with all the tools and features that Amazon provides to you where you will be realizing the benefits of this migration to the cloud. You will be able to do snapshots, for example. Right? We talked about creating images out of the servers. You can use CloudFormation to script your processes. Right? So all these out-of-the-box capabilities that you have with Amazon will ease your future operations for eBusiness Suite. It will be very easy to create a clone. It will be very easy to create a backup of the system because you are going to patch it, for example, right? And you will be able to have that environment only for the period of time that you need to do the patching and to test the patching before you go into production, for example. And then you will be able to shut down those environments without having to pay for a continuous cost on them. Right? And the last point is that Amazon gives you a lot of metrics, right? CloudWatch gives you metrics, and there are plenty of tools right now that you can use for monitoring. Or if you already have an Oracle Enterprise Manager on-prem, you can also bring that into Amazon and use it to continue monitoring your deployments. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Julian.
Thank you, Wilfredo. Now, we've had a very active audience today with lots of questions coming through on chat, so we will move to those questions very soon. But just a couple of things I wanted to cover before we do that. One is that Shaun mentioned that before he started the migration of Oracle EBS to the cloud, he had the opportunity to try a pilot. And we have a very special offer for everyone on the meeting today, where we are offering the ability to migrate one non-production EBS environment to the AWS cloud without charge, and we'll run that for you for 4 weeks, make that available for you for 4 weeks for you to try it and to see how you like running eBusiness Suite on the cloud. All you need to do is sign up on the landing page. You can either scan the QR code or go directly to that web address. And we will be sharing these slides with everybody, so you will have that slide available and you can register for that offer. And this webinar is just one of a series that we are going to cover. And there are a couple of subjects that came up in the questions that we received during the call. And one of those is around licensing and support, and we'll be covering that in our next webinar, which is going to be in October. Security was another one that came up, and high availability also. And we're going to be covering each of those subjects, and we will certainly invite all of you who attended this webinar to see if you would like to join us for those other subjects in the future. So let's move to some of the questions that you asked through the meeting today. One question that came up was, what version of eBusiness Suite are we talking about here? I know it's version 12, but can we be more precise on which version?
Yes, I can take that. So we have done all of the versions from 11i, so 11.5.10.2, 12.1.3, and all the way to 12.2.7. So we have done all of them so far. There is a caveat, as you might know, with the version with 11i, and that is about the 32-bit middle tiers. We can talk about it, but as Shaun can attest for it, we did a POC for him on 11i for integer, actually for Lake Region Medical at that time.
Okay,
back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilfredo. And Shaun, if you're still on the phone with us, question about the environment. Have you noticed any performance changes since you migrated to the AWS cloud?
Performance got better, and it's been better and steady. And we've had plenty of opportunity to even fine-tune it and decrease the cost in Amazon and lower the amount of CPU power to handle our environment. And I highlight that because it's kind of a neat thing to be able to do, to bring your costs down and still provide speed for your users, and we did that. We've done nothing here but improve our situation. We've seen no decrease in performance at all. It only gets better.
That's great. Lots of questions coming in here. We've got one about your global sites, and somebody was asking, are you using multiple AWS regions to cover your global sites?
Wilfredo can take this one too, but we are using Amazon availability zones in Virginia for the entire globe. Wilfredo, can you add anything to that? I mean, that's pretty straightforward, right?
Yes, that's correct. So you are using one region, is the Virginia region.
Yeah, but talk a little bit about the DR and cut over to that, because we don't have everything in one region, or excuse me, one availability zone, correct?
Right.
It'd be good for folks to know that.
Yes. Yes, for that's correct. So we are using multiple availability zones for different workloads. Typically, you might want to divide the production and non-production workloads and put those on different availability zones. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so one question that came in was about reliability, and were there any concerns about reliability or high availability with the migration to the cloud?
We didn't have any concerns. We researched it. Of course, there's a certain amount of risk learning with Amazon that we were concerned about, but we have had success, and we've had our Oracle EBS release 12.1.3, Hyperion release 11, and another application at Amazon at an availability zone in Virginia to cover our worldwide operations since the fall of 2016, and have had no issues at all.
Okay, that's great. And there have been a couple of questions, Wilfredo, about high availability and rack. Is that something that you can talk a little bit about for the audience?
Yes, correct. So the typical issue here is that there are customers out there, Oracle customers, that are using rack for high availability, and what happens when you have to go to single instance. So that's something that you have to evaluate. It is a common use case that you go to a single instance, especially on Amazon. And the reason for that is because many times you do have some I would say minimal time where you are able to stop operations and restart the system. And what happens with Amazon as a side feature, I would say, is that if for any reason you're having issues with your current hardware and your current instance that you're running for eBusiness Suite, then when you restart the instance, it will come up out of a farm, what is called a healthy farm of servers, and your issues will go away. So we haven't had that problem, right? So first of all, we haven't had that issue. We haven't had in the past 6 years that we have been working with this. However, if it was to show in that scenario, then all you have to do basically is to restart your instance on a different, just restart it, and it will come automatically on a different farm. Back to you.
Okay, and there are options for rack with working with third-party partners as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So if you are you really need a rack, let's say for some type of mission critical applications or anything like that, there is an option right now, very neat option, I will say, to use VMware Cloud. And with VMware Cloud running on AWS, you will be able to have rack. We published the white paper, so if you are interested in looking deeper into this, you can go to our website and look up the VMware eBusiness Suite rack, and you will find our white paper. We did a full installation on a 4-node VMware Cloud software-defined data center running on AWS. Back to you, Julie.
Great, thanks, Wilfredo. Quite a few people are asking about Oracle certified eBusiness Suite to run on AWS and any risk that might create for customers. Now, we certainly have support from Oracle for all of our customers running EBS on AWS. Do you want to comment on that, Wilfredo, and maybe Mark as well?
Yes, I can comment on that. So to start with, the question, this specific question was posted to Steve Chan, and Steve Chan is the Senior Director of Oracle who drives the applications blog. And Steve said eBusiness Suite is not certified to run on Amazon Web Services. However, in multiple other postings from Steve, he also has mentioned, and even in this one, he also mentioned that Oracle supports more than what is certified. And he mentions also that they cannot, as a company, they cannot test everything everywhere. So what we've done to help our customers in these scenarios is that number one, we try to use Oracle Linux wherever there is a possibility. Why? Because Oracle Linux and eBusiness Suite is fully certified against the operating system. And people know this, right? This is a common scenario where they fully certify the application against a specific operating system. And it is certified. And second, Oracle has made it very clear that they will support Oracle Linux on AWS. And also they will support the databases on AWS. So, but furthermore, there is a quote from MetaLink note from Oracle where they state that they will not turn away any customer with an issue just due to the fact that they are running on a non-certified platform. And they will triage the problem. They will provide patches if they are, and they will make every attempt to duplicate the issue on a different platform than the one that is not certified. So last but not least, the fact also that Oracle published that Amazon is an authorized cloud provider for Oracle workloads also helps with this case. So bottom line, in those years with all these customers that we have been opening SRs right and left, and it has never been questioned if we are running on AWS or not. Right? So from the practical perspective, also Oracle is making every attempt to support the customers, whether they are certified or not on the platform. Back to you.
Julian, it's Shaun. Let me just also add to that we've had zero challenges with Oracle support running our instances on Amazon. And they know they're on Amazon. We mentioned it in our SRs, as Wilfredo said. We've had no challenges at all. just to put that out there for everybody.
That's great. Thank you very much. And then we're very close to the end of our time. Just one more question. And those of you who've asked questions that we haven't had time to answer, we will endeavor to put together a Q&A sheet that we can share with everybody who joined the webinar. So look for that in your email in the future. But this last question is around reporting tools like OBIE. Can you still run those, maybe even migrate those to the cloud alongside EBS once you're running on AWS?
Yeah, the answer is very straightforward. The answer is yes. Especially in the case of OBIE, you might really want to move that to the cloud. It is possible. There are no constraints at all there. And we've done it as well, right? As you can see, for example, in the case of Integer, we are running Hyperion, which is financial reporting as well, and they are running fine also on AWS. We have also Discoverer running for Integer, was migrated, and it's all fine.
Yeah, I would also add that Integer uses BIX, the BI Cloud Service of Oracle, and it's integrated from EBS at Amazon into the BIX Cloud at Oracle. We have zero issues with that. We're also running the older version of Oracle's CRM on-demand cloud product, which is also integrated with Oracle EBS at Amazon, and there's no issues there at all as well.
Thank you, Shaun. And thank you also to Wilfredo and Mark, and thank you everybody for joining us. This is the end of our webinar today, and look forward to receiving the recording and the slides in your email. Thank you for joining us.